Why is everyone on Instagram making sourdough, including myself? In the past few years, there's been a rising trend of sustainability and self-sufficiency that's cultivated a huge community around growing, baking, and fermenting your own foods. And I actually think that because of this, now could be a turning point in the food industry, which we'll talk about in a bit. Today, we're gonna be discussing how this trend of moving away from modern foods first started, the surprising impact that it's had on our society, and what I think will happen to the big food industry because of this trend. And you also might notice that I'm not in my usual setting because today, we're making sourdough. This is Walter, and I've only actually made sourdough a couple of times, so I'm really hoping that'll turn out well. So let's get started. Americans today have, for the most part, never had to worry about the food supply. They've always known where they can get food, how to get it, and they've heavily relied on that convenience while simultaneously taking it for granted. With that being said, let's start the first step of making sourdough. And this is gonna take me a long time, so definitely strap in because I'm not gonna be done with this bread until tomorrow. First step is the Autolyse, which is where we're gonna combine flour and water. I'm gonna be following this recipe right here. I'll put it 600 grams of all-purpose flour. And we're gonna be making 2 loaves today. 1 loaf lasts 2 days. And then we're gonna add 400 grams of whole wheat flour. So we're getting up to 1,000 grams. Boom. 1,000 on the dot. And the next step is to add a lot of water. Then we're gonna add 750 grams of water into here, and then we're gonna let it sit for an hour. Dang, thirsty ass sourdough. 762 grams. We're gonna combine that all. Just again, I wanna say I'm not a sourdough expert by any means. This is my third time making it. I'm gonna let this sit for an hour. I'm gonna set my timer. Like I was saying, people really took the food supply for granted. But then 2020 happened. The chaos of lockdowns and the uncertainty of the virus woke up a lot of people about their dependence on big food. People weren't able to go to the grocery store anymore, and when they were, a lot of their favorite items were out of stock because of supply chain issues. Combine all of that with the need for hobbies to do at home, since everyone was stuck inside, and you kind of have the perfect storm for making traditional foods. But there are a few other factors that really contributed to the rise of how popular it is today. There's been a huge trend of people wanting to become more healthy and getting into the health and wellness space, and making food from home is almost always healthier than going and getting it from a restaurant or from the store. Almost always. Another reason is nostalgia. Making bread feels so comforting, like it takes you back to simpler times. Sourdough's been around for literally thousands of years, and it kind of feels nice to know that you're doing what your ancestors have done and what their ancestors have done. Or maybe I'm just looking a little bit too deeply into bread. And finally, the most obvious reason for why these traditional foods blew up in popularity is social media. You know which videos I'm talking about. We've all seen them and briefly felt the urge to move to rural Idaho and start growing potatoes. You're not alone. But seriously, they're not called influencers for nothing. We watch these people on our phones do these aesthetic and aspirational things, and then we copy them because we're influenced by them. So it's been 45 minutes. Now it's time for one of my favorite parts of the process, and that is where we're gonna add the starter into the mix. It's time for Walter. This is what it looks like at the moment. And now we're going to add 150 grams of Walter into here. Then we're going to add 20 grams of salt. It's gonna take a little while. This is what it looks like. It looks kind of like a mess. We're gonna get in here and start the first stretch and fold. And what that means is basically you stretch and then you fold it in. We're gonna repeat the whole process 5 to 6 times until the gluten feels nice and developed. And we'll be back in 30 minutes to do the whole process again. It's been 30 minutes and it's time to repeat the stretch and fold process. This is what our dough is looking like right now. It's getting a little bit tighter. That means the gluten is developing, I think. We're gonna do this like 4 more times, and I'll meet up with you guys again for the bulk rise so that we can talk about how society has been impacted by the shift back towards traditional foods. Number 5. Oh, my slime skills really come out during this time. Look at that, it's starting to get all shiny. Ooh. It's time to do the final stretch and fold, and then we're going to do the bulk rise, which is basically where we're gonna let it sit 4 to 7 hours. As I mentioned earlier, factors like health and wellness, nostalgia, and social media have made the movement towards traditional foods blow up in popularity. But what impact has this had on our society as a whole? We as a species are very community driven. We seek out people who share common interests with us, and the internet makes it so much easier. As a result, people post on social media and subreddits like r/sourdough literally just to talk about sourdough and share tips. And honestly, it's pretty awesome. Concerning studies have shown that Gen Z is the loneliest generation. But the fact that these communities exist and thrive could hopefully signal that our society is healing and moving back towards working with other people. Another impact of this traditional movement is that people have become much more concerned about the source of their food. A couple years ago, if you walked around talking about grass-fed, grass-finished beef or local raw milk, people would look at you like you're a lunatic. And now it's something that's all over social media. It's really trendy nowadays to shop at your local farmer's market or get eggs from your local farmer. I personally think that this shift is fantastic, and at the end of the video, we're gonna talk about if this shift is going to last or not. Another pretty big societal shift because of this has been fast food culture. Although fast food is just as prevalent as it's ever been, unfortunately, we've seen the growth of tons of healthier fast food options like Bole, Fresh Kitchen, and the Naked Farmer. The mainstream opinion is starting to move towards a sustainable, locally sourced, and community-focused approach to foods, which I absolutely love. But there's still a group of individuals that doesn't really love this shift as much, which we will talk about more tomorrow. But first, we have some sourdough to make. So I'll see you guys after the bulk rise.
6.5 hours later.
I'm back. It is now much later, as you can probably tell. It looks like our dough has finished going through the bulk rise, and it smells super, super good. Now we're gonna do the pre-shaping, so I'm gonna take this bad boy out. As you can see, there are so many bubbles that have formed during the bulk rise. So that is great. That was the whole goal. I'm just folding in the edges. This is just the pre-shaping, doesn't have to look perfect. We're gonna let them sit for 30 minutes. To be honest, I don't know why. I feel like every time I make sourdough, it's just a full day of setting timers. Here we go, 30 minutes on the clock, and I'll see you guys when it's up. All right, Peyton's back. Say hi, Peyton.
Hi, Peyton.
Ready for the grand reveal? Ta-da! Oh my gosh, they're pancakes. So we're gonna flour these generously. I feel like that's a little too generously. I have very limited workspace, I guess. Counter space. Look at all those bubbles. You see that? And then loaf number 2.
Loaf.
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 Wow, this loaf is significantly bigger than the other loaf. And now we have 2 sourdough loaves ready to proof. I am just going to stick these in the fridge with the aluminum foil on them. We're gonna let them rest overnight, and then in the morning, we can actually finally bake these after a full day of work. Oh yeah. All right, one here, boom, perfect. And we'll see you guys in the morning for some sourdough. So excited. Good night.
Good night.
Day 2.
Good morning, everyone. Today is the best day ever, which basically means that I'm gonna get to eat fresh sourdough, which I'm so excited for. And I have the Dutch oven preheated. It's been preheating for an hour. We're gonna pop these loaves in the oven, and then we're gonna chat about some final thoughts that I have about what I think is gonna happen with the food industry because of the shift away from more modern foods. Oh wow. A lot of extra flour. I'm very primitive when it comes to scoring. I've never used an actual scoring tool thing. I just always cut it with a knife. So now for the important part, to not burn ourselves. Okay. Woof. Oh no, the smoke detector is gonna go off. Back in the oven. All right, While the first loaf is in the oven, I want to take the time to talk right now about why I think that the food industry is kind of at a turning point. As I talked about in my most recent video, the FDA is currently cracking down on the food industry, specifically the generally recognized as safe or GRAS loophole. I explained in depth what this means in my other video, but in short, it basically means that food companies are going to have to retest the safety of their ingredients and take any chemicals that are harmful off the market. So a lot is going to change. I see a few options for big food. Either they can continue down a path of skirting regulations through loopholes, like they used GRAS in the past, or they can realize that their consumers are changing and change with them. More people than ever before are actually aware of what's in their foods. There's been a massive push for healthier foods with less ingredients. And because of the move to cooking more foods from scratch, the food industry might actually have to cut out the bad ingredients if they want people to come back and start buying their foods again. Do I think that the whole world is suddenly gonna start making their own sauerkraut and sourdough? Obviously not. But I am hopeful that the food economy will continue to trend in this direction because, let's be real, the modern food supply sucks. This is why it's so important to make some foods from scratch. And if you want to join my journey about learning more about the dangers hidden in our foods and learning to make some new foods myself, definitely subscribe down below. Also, before we pull out the sourdough, I have a completely free downloadable guide in the description down below that has the worst ingredients that you should definitely avoid next time you're at the grocery store. Let's check out the bread. Ta-da! Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm gonna eat that so hard.
Crazy. We're gonna do a little taste test of the sourdough. I'm so excited. Are you excited?
So excited.
Oh,
Oh, don't drop it.
imagine. I'd cry. Oh my gosh, wait. Oh. Scream at us all you want, but I'm gonna cut into this sourdough loaf. Bro. Oh.
Bread knife. There you go.
Oh,
Steaming.
it's steaming. Oh yeah. Check out that piece of
Steaming hot bread.
sourdough. Oh yeah.
Clink.
Oh my gosh, so hot. That is the hottest and freshest bread I've ever eaten in my life.
Likewise.
Oh, so good. Thank you guys so much for watching this video.
Never buy bread from the grocery store.
Let me know in the comments if you've ever tried to make sourdough or if you're now inspired to try to make sourdough, because it seems really intimidating, but it's actually not that hard. If you want to check out my full video where I talk about the whole generally recognized as safe loophole, you can check that out right over here. As always, stay healthy and we'll see you guys next time. So good.